Here we have a story. It was right after the Yom Kippur War. There were a lot of Israelis that were wounded. In this story, the two of them were in a hospital. This hospital happens to be right near my house, but this was before I came to Israel. Anyway, so they were in the hospital. One of them was Mr. Sadon, and one of them was Mr. Shapir. Mr. Sadon, he was a totally not religious Jew, and so was his wife. But his wife, her grandparents had been religious. In fact, they were Chabad Hasidim. And so she wrote a letter to the Rebbe, even though she wasn't religious, but writing a letter to the Rebbe was nothing new to her. So she wrote a letter to the Rebbe asking for a refuah for her husband, a healing for her husband who had been wounded seriously in the war. Next to him, Mr. Sadon was a Moroccan Jew by the name of Mr. Shapir. And Mr. Shapir also had been wounded very seriously. And they got to be friendly with one another, talking to one another, the families also. And when he heard or he saw that Mrs. Sadon was writing a letter to the Rebbe, so he said, "Could you please send the Rebbe this book and ask him to autograph it?" It was a little book of Psalms. So she said, "Okay." Now the Rebbe usually never autographs books or writes messages on books, but nevertheless, she didn't know that. She wasn't a religious woman anyway. I mean, even her mother had not been religious, but she knew that her grandparents were, and she had this sort of, connection with her grandparents. She saw her grandparents. So that's Mrs. Sadon, right? So she writes the letter to the Rebbe. And her husband, Mr. Sadon, gets healed and released. And they say goodbye to Mr. Shapir, who's still laying in the hospital. The Moroccan Jew is still laying in the hospital. And they said that they'll be in touch. So Mr. Shapir, he's the one that gave the book of Tehillah of Psalms, right? So they passed by a month, 2 months. They forgot about the whole incident. And then one day they received a letter that is waiting for them, a letter in the post office. They went and they received it. And it was a letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe to Mr. Shapir. Why did it come to them? Because she was the one who sent this book of Tehillim, Mrs. Sadon. She was the one who sent the request to the Rebbe, so it came back to her house. So there was a letter addressed to her. First of all, she opened up the book of Psalms. It was a little book, and sure enough, the Rebbe wrote a little inscription in there. Bracha v'atzlacha, refuah shlema, very tiny letters, and the Rebbe signed his name. And in addition, he wrote to her a letter. And in the letter, he said, "Please convey my blessings to Mr. Shapir and also to your husband, that he should have a complete healing and everything." And in the end, the Rebbe wrote, "P.S. Certainly you light Shabbos candles like every Jewish woman, like every good Jewish woman." That's what the Rebbe wrote. "Certainly you light Shabbos candles like every good Jewish woman." Okay, so she put the letter down. Well, amazing. She got a letter from the Rebbe, and her husband was already healthy. And she went back with her husband. They went back to the hospital to give the book of Psalms to Mr. Shapir. But Mr. Shapir had already checked out. He also got healthy, and he had checked out a couple of weeks earlier. So they found his address, and they went to his house, and they gave him the book of the Psalms, and he was very, very happy, and they hugged and this and that. But nevertheless, she started thinking, what is this that the Rebbe added? Certainly you light Shabbos candles like every good Jewish woman. So at first of all, she thought, okay, the Rebbe is a religious person, and that's his thing, he spreads religion. That's what a rabbi does. But she started looking. The words just rang in her mind, like every good Jewish woman. And she certainly was Jewish. There's no doubt about that. And she would, if that's what it meant being, it doesn't mean if you didn't light Shabbos candles, you're not good. Exactly the opposite. She is good. And because she is a good Jewish woman, so certainly she lights candles. So she thought, should I do it? Should I not do it? Anyway, she goes down to the store and she buys Shabbos candles. And she comes home and she realizes that she doesn't know anything about lighting Shabbos candles. She doesn't know where to put them. She doesn't know what time to light them, what you're supposed to do with them. So she was embarrassed to go. She didn't even know where to go. She didn't even know where to go to ask. In those days, there was, Chabad houses. I don't know how many, if there were Chabad houses at all. But in any case, she was totally far from any rabbis or anything like that. So there was no Google. You couldn't look it up. She had no religious friends. So she didn't know what to do. So suddenly the phone rang. It was like Friday in the morning. The phone rang, and it's her son calling up from the army. Her son is also in the army. And her son is calling up just to say that he's going to have a leave next week and etc. She says to her son, listen, is there a rabbi over there? She said, oh, yeah, the rabbi happens to be here in the room. The rabbi, every base, they had a rabbi. Can you put him on the phone? So sure, put him on the phone. She told him the problem. I got Shabbos candles. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to light them. I don't know what, you're supposed to say some blessing or something. I don't know what to say. So I said, lady, absolutely no problem. I'll tell you the blessing. Sit down and write it down. Wrote down the blessing. I'll tell you the time when you have to light Shabbos candles this Shabbat. And as soon as on Sunday, as soon as Shabbos goes out, I'll send you a whole time schedule of when to light Shabbos candles. And I'll also send you a small book of Jewish law that you can learn whenever you want to. And that'll explain the whole thing. And sure enough, she started lighting candles at the right time. And the next Shabbat, it was more acceptable by her. And her husband, Mr. Sadon, who felt he also that the Rebbe had some hand in his healing, he started enjoying it. And it wasn't long until he stopped working on Shabbat. He was on leave anyway, I guess, for a while for that. And he bought a pair of tefillin. And they became, like the Rebbe said, expressed the fact that they're good Jews. So we see that a little bit of light can dispel a lot of darkness, and that sometimes it transforms even bad things like getting wounded into good things. Have a good day with Mashiach now.